In the heart of Brooklyn, New York, a story unfolded that would encapsulate the quintessence of a true crime tale, shadowed with elements of mystery, despair, and unexpected turns. Born on March 8, 1956, Gail Katz emerged into the world, growing up in a bustling, vibrant borough teeming with the diverse culture and energy characteristic of New York City. Her early life was shared with two siblings, a sister and a brother, in a household that hummed with the ordinary joys and challenges of family life. Gail, a bright and promising student, soared academically during her teenage years, outpacing her peers and graduating a year ahead of schedule. However, as she transitioned into college, her path veered sharply from the anticipated trajectory. Instead of further academic achievements, Gail became entangled in a whirlwind of social activities and parties. This lifestyle shift led to a pivotal decision to leave college, a choice that would reverberate through her life and deeply disappoint her conservative parents, who cherished traditional values and envisioned a very different future for their daughter. In their eyes, Gail's optimal path to success was clear-cut: marry a prosperous man. Her mother, a seasoned emergency department employee, staunchly believed that a doctor would be the ideal partner for Gail. Yet Gail defied these expectations, prioritizing her social life and casual dating over settling into a committed relationship. During this tumultuous period, Gail's life spiraled downward. She grappled with severe depression and endured multiple suicide attempts, causing concern and surprise within her family. Amidst this turbulent phase, Gail introduced her family to Dr. Robert Bebal, a connection forged through mutual friends. Dr. Bebal, the son of a successful cardiologist, was a rising star in the medical field, having completed his residency in plastic surgery at the prestigious Brooklyn Mayonnaise Medical Center. Beyond his impressive educational credentials, Robert exuded charm, was adept in several languages, and harbored a deep love for skiing. However, his most fervent passion was aviation. An avid pilot, Robert often whisked Gail away on romantic airborne dates, igniting in her a newfound zest for adventure. Their bond strengthened rapidly, flourishing amidst shared experiences and mutual appreciation for each other's interests. This connection eventually led them down the aisle as they committed to each other in marriage. Yet, as is often the case in the intricate tapestry of love and life, their story did not lead to the idyllic ending often portrayed in fairy tales. Instead, it veered into a realm of complexity and darkness, setting the stage for a narrative rich in suspense and shrouded in mystery, a narrative that would soon captivate the attention of a city, and indeed a nation. In the intricate web of events surrounding Gail Katz's mysterious disappearance, inconsistencies and conflicting statements began to emerge, casting a shadow of doubt and suspicion. Dr. Robert Bebal, her husband, initially informed the police that an argument had occurred between them on the night before Gail went missing, citing financial issues as the root cause. He asserted that they had reconciled afterward, even describing a romantic dinner he had prepared upon their return to their apartment on July 6th. According to his account, Gail left for Central Park the next morning at around 11 a.m. However, the police, employing their seasoned investigative skills honed through countless true crime cases, probed deeper. Despite their repeated questioning about the events of July 7th, Robert maintained that he stayed in the apartment until leaving for a party at 5:30 p.m. This claim sharply contrasted with what he had told Gail's friends, that he had searched for her in Central Park between 11 a.m. and 5:30 p.m., even alleging to have found her towel and suntan oil there. Intriguingly, Robert never shared this potentially crucial information with the police. Further complicating the narrative, Robert informed the detective that the doorman at their apartment complex remembered seeing Gail leave at 11 a.m. but not returning. Yet upon questioning by the police, the doorman denied seeing either Robert or Gail that day. When Detective Dallas requested to search the apartment following Gail's initial disappearance report, Robert responded only after a significant delay, granting access on September 30th, but with strict limitations. No searches for blood or hair samples were permitted. As the police delved into the state of their marriage, a far from idyllic picture emerged. Described as toxic by acquaintances, their relationship wasn't always tumultuous. They met in the early 80s when Gail was in college and Robert was a surgical resident in Manhattan. Initially, Robert spared no effort to impress Gail, showcasing his skills as a pilot and his proficiency in multiple languages, creating a facade of romance and magic. However, the facade began to crumble, and arguments became more frequent in the months leading up to Gail's disappearance. Gail's sister, Gail Katz, recounted to the police a disturbing incident where she witnessed Robert forcefully feeding Gail at a restaurant, a scene that deeply unsettled her. This incident was just one of several alarming behaviors uncovered by the police. Friends and family described Robert as controlling, and Gail had confided to a neighbor about her unease at home. Gail had even reported to the police an incident where Robert allegedly choked her into unconsciousness after catching her smoking on the balcony. Although she stayed with Robert after he agreed to see a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist later sent her a letter cautioning her that Robert might pose a serious threat to her life. In a twist that would deepen the mystery, it was revealed that shortly before she was reported missing, Gail had begun a new relationship and decided to leave Robert. She had planned to inform him of her decision to leave and file for divorce on July 7th. She also considered revealing the psychiatrist's letter to his colleagues if Robert refused to cooperate with the divorce and settlement. The accumulation of circumstantial evidence, unearthed by the police's meticulous investigation, increasingly pointed to Robert's involvement in Gail's perplexing disappearance, adding layers of complexity and intrigue to an already baffling case. As the enigma of Gail Katz's disappearance deepened, the search for her continued unabated, fueled by the determination of her family and friends to unearth the truth. Yet Robert Bebal, her husband, seemed conspicuously indifferent to her fate. He immersed himself in the social scene of the Hamptons, attending numerous parties and engaging in relationships with other women. In September 1985, Dr. Roberto Karnowski moved into the marital home and commenced a relationship with Robert, which lasted about a year. Throughout this period, despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Gail was found and no arrests were made. Gail's disappearance remained an active and open case, with Chief Investigator Detective Andy Rosen deeply involved in revisiting the evidence. Knowing Robert's passion for aviation and his status as a licensed pilot, Detective Rosen focused on scrutinizing flight logs at the New Jersey airport, a frequent haunt for Robert to rent planes. The investigation into these records uncovered a pivotal clue. On July 7, 1985, Robert rented a Cessna 172 plane at Caldwell Airport in Fairfield, New Jersey at 4:30 p.m., returning it after 1 hour and 56 minutes. Curiously, Robert had altered the date on his personal flight log to the following day, July 8th. This discrepancy raised serious questions. Why had Robert attempted to conceal this flight? What was he hiding? Detective Rosen's suspicions about Robert's involvement in Gail's disappearance intensified. He theorized that Robert might have killed Gail and disposed of her body in the Atlantic Ocean. The flight records indicated that he had sufficient time to make a round trip of approximately 165 miles over a portion of the ocean. However, with Gail's body still missing, the district attorney's office hesitated, feeling there wasn't adequate evidence for a conviction. In a grim turn of events, 4 years after Gail's disappearance in May 1989, a torso washed up on Staten Island. At that time, DNA testing was not yet available, so an X-ray technician compared an old chest X-ray with the torso, confirming it belonged to Gail. Her family, accepting this identification, held a burial service. Despite this discovery, no charges were filed against Robert, who subsequently relocated to Las Vegas, established a successful plastic surgery practice, and became well regarded in the community. In 1996, he married Janet Shallow, and they later moved to North Dakota, where they had a daughter. Despite Robert's apparent new life, Detective Rosen remained haunted by the unsolved case of Gail's disappearance. A decade later, with advancements in forensic DNA analysis, he decided to revisit the case. With the consent of Gail's family, the torso was exhumed for DNA testing, which shockingly revealed that it did not belong to Gail. Despite the absence of Gail's body, the police and the DA's office believed they had gathered sufficient evidence to arrest and charge Robert with second-degree murder. The case, which had remained dormant for years, was reignited by this new evidence, propelling it back into the spotlight and offering a glimmer of hope for justice in the haunting mystery of Gail Katz's disappearance. In the gripping trial that ensued, Robert Bebal pled not guilty to the charges leveled against him in the disappearance and presumed murder of his wife, Gail Katz. The prosecution's case hinged entirely on circumstantial evidence, as there were no eyewitnesses, no forensic evidence directly linking Robert to the crime, no confession, and crucially, no body. Nevertheless, the prosecution argued vehemently that the circumstantial evidence they presented unerringly pointed to one conclusion: Robert's guilt in Gail's murder. The prosecution's theory was that upon learning of Gail's intention to leave him, Robert, in a fit of rage, killed her in their apartment. According to the authorities, Robert then spent several hours meticulously dismembering Gail's body before using his piloting skills to fly over the ocean and dispose of her remains between Montauk Point, New York, and Cape May, New Jersey. The challenge for the prosecution was to convince the jury not only of Robert's guilt, but also of the feasibility of him single-handedly committing such a heinous act. To bolster their case, the prosecution presented 4 expert witnesses and a demonstrative video illustrating how Robert could have executed this macabre deed. The jury heard from New York City's chief medical examiner, an experienced New York City police pilot, an aviation safety inspector, and an airline transport pilot and FAA flight test examiner. These experts posited that Robert, with his surgical training and flying experience, could feasibly dismember a body of Gail's stature, 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighing 110 pounds, in as little as 10 minutes. They further testified that he could then pack her dismembered limbs into a flight bag, transport them through an unmonitored rear exit of his apartment building, and walk 2 blocks to his car without drawing attention. Furthermore, the experts opined that Robert could load the flight bag onto the Cessna 172 plane without arousing suspicion and pilot it over the Atlantic Ocean to dispose of Gail's remains. They noted that the rented plane was relatively easy to operate, bolstering the theory of Robert's capability to execute such a plan. The prosecution also presented compelling evidence of a motive. They revealed Gail's affair, her determination to leave Robert, and her concrete plans to do so on July 7th. The court learned that Robert had failed to inform anyone, including his family, about his flying activities on that fateful day. The altered flight log, suggesting he flew on the day after Gail's disappearance, was presented as a critical piece of evidence. Additionally, the court heard about the turbulent nature of Robert and Gail's relationship, including allegations of domestic violence. Robert himself had described their arguments as intense and volatile. Witnesses recounted instances of Robert expressing animosity toward Gail and making statements that indicated a desire to harm her. Testimonies revealed both direct and perceived threats made by Robert. In one chilling instance in the autumn of 1983, Gail contacted her cousin Hillard Ween, an attorney, and disclosed a heated argument with Robert during which he had choked her, rendering her unconscious, not the first instance of such violence. This intricate tapestry of circumstantial evidence, testimonies, and expert analyses wove a compelling narrative for the prosecution as they endeavored to unravel the mystery of Gail Katz's disappearance and bring justice to light in a case shrouded in intrigue and darkness. In the concluding phase of the trial, the prosecution presented a critical testimony from Gail's therapist, Dr. Syl Barron, which directly contradicted Robert's claims about Gail's mental state. Contrary to Robert's assertions that Gail was suicidal, Dr. Barron informed the jury that she had never discussed such concerns with Robert and did not believe Gail was suicidal. This testimony played a crucial role in undermining the defense's portrayal of Gail as someone grappling with severe mental health issues and a drug dependency, characterized by unstable relationships with other men. The defense, in an attempt to exonerate Robert, presented an alternative narrative. They called upon a witness who claimed to have seen Gail in a bagel shop days after her disappearance, suggesting that she was still alive and well. However, the prosecution was quick to point out the discrepancies in this account, highlighting that the witness's description did not match Gail's physical appearance. After an intense trial, replete with twists and turns characteristic of the most perplexing true crime documentaries, the jury deliberated for 5.5 hours before reaching a verdict. They found Robert guilty of second-degree murder, leading to a sentence of 20 years to life in prison. Robert's subsequent appeals to overturn the verdict were unsuccessful, leaving him to serve out his sentence. In a dramatic turn of events, 2 decades into his sentence, during a 2020 parole board hearing, Robert made a startling confession. For the first time, he admitted to killing Gail and disposing of her body in a manner that chillingly aligned with the prosecution's theory. He recounted that during an argument he became overwhelmed with rage, ultimately attacking and strangling Gail. He then described how he flew an airplane, opened the door, and discarded her body over the ocean. When questioned about his motive for the murder, Robert attributed it to his immaturity and inability to effectively manage his anger. This confession, though bringing a degree of closure to the case, did little to assuage the enduring pain and loss felt by Gail's loved ones. Despite his admission, Gail's body has never been recovered, leaving a haunting void in the lives of those who knew and loved her. The case of Gail Katz's disappearance and murder, fraught with suspense, mystery, and a web of deceit, remains a stark reminder of the complexities and often heartbreaking realities of true crime. The story, unfolding like a dark and intricate police procedural, highlights the persistence of law enforcement and the judicial system in their pursuit of truth and justice, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges and the passage of time.
Thanks for exploring the chilling world of true crime with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell button for more mysteries and criminal insights. Stay alert, stay curious, and keep unraveling the mysteries. Until next time, take care.